again, Mark here from Talkingbass.net. This week I'm answering a request for a rundown of a really great bass line that I first played way back in the early 90s. It's the intro line from the song Souls of Black by Testament, played by the bass player Greg Christian. So I'm going to break this line up into small bite-sized chunks and show how a tricky line like this can be made much easier when you digest it in smaller parts. The drum track and lesson material can be found over at Talkingbass.net by clicking in the info below. And remember, if you need to work on any other aspects of your bass playing, also check out the Talking Bass courses that will help turbocharge your technique, your reading, your ear, and much, much more. So go check it out. So we're going to split this line up into two-bar sections. The first section sounds like this. Okay, so that's the first section. And then the second section sounds like this. Okay, so that's the second section. So both sections are pretty much the same, it's just that they have a different ending. So let's look at section 1. We're in the key of E minor and we begin on an open E. So we work up then through this kind of broken chord here. So we've got the open E and then we play B, E and B up here above the 12th fret. So we've got 14th fret on the A string and D string. And then we jump up to the 16th fret, the B, up on the G string. Then we move back to the E there at the 14th fret of the D string. And then we come back to this dissonant B flat there, the 15th fret of the G string. So very slowly. Okay, so just get those notes under your fingers first. Now, before I move into the next notes, I'll just give you a little tip on the finger picking here. Now, there's several different ways you could play this. You could start on the first finger there, the index finger for your picking, because it's pretty much all alternate picking in here. But I'm going to start on the second finger. So this is going to be the middle finger. So I'm going to play the second finger for the open E, and then I'm going to alternate as a lead up. So first finger takes the A string, second finger takes the D string. Then I've got the first finger there on the G string. And I'm going to rake back onto the D string, leaving me with the second finger for that B flat there at the end. So, okay, it gives us a nice smooth rake there at the top. Okay, so that's the fingering in this hand. In this hand, I'm just using the first finger there, laid across, joint barring across the two 14th frets there on the A and the D string. And then I'm just using the third finger and the second finger, that's right, for the B and the B flat there at the top. Okay, so very simple, pretty much a chord shape there, just a E minor chord that's been broken up. So that was our first chunk, okay, so you want to practice that round and round until you've got it off. Don't worry about moving on to the next bit yet, just concentrate on that. Okay, just get used to that. Then we move on to the second chunk. So the next part sounds like this. Okay, so again we're kind of coming up an E minor, but we're starting on the G there. So we've got the open E again, then 10th fret of the A string, the G, then we hit the B at the 9th fret of the D string. So this is pretty much an E minor arpeggio. Then we've got the G, 12th fret of the G string, down to the B again, so we're coming back to it on the 9th fret of the D string. And then we've got the F sharp there at the 11th fret of the G string. And that's our second chunk. Okay, so. Okay, so practice each chunk in isolation and then you can put them together, okay? And this is how you want to approach these longer lines. Break it up into small chunks and then you have something to focus on. You can really get into the technique of a particular little chunk. Really focus on getting that right before you add another bit and then focus on that and then put them together, okay? So again, for that second chunk, I'm using the same fingering in this in the picking hand. I'm starting on the second finger and then working up 2, 1, 2, 1, rake, and then up to the second finger. So, putting them both together. For the final chunk of that first section, we have the following. Okay, so we've got this descending line in thirds. So first of all, we just come up an E power chord. So we start on the open E again, and then we come up E, B, E. Okay, so 7th fret A string, and then the 9th fret on the D string, and then the G string. Then we come back to the B, 9th fret of the D string, and then play the D, 7th fret of the G string. So that's our minor third there. So as soon as you've come up the power chord there and hit that top E, then ignore that and just jump into the thirds. So we have a minor third first of all, so we've got B to D, so 9th fret D string to 7th fret G string, and then we come down. Another minor third, just a whole step lower, so that's going to be the A and the C, so it's going to be 7th fret D string, 5th fret G string. Then we've got a major third on the G, so 5th fret D string and then 4th fret G string, G and B. And then finally another minor third on the F sharp, so 4th fret D string, 2nd fret G string. So F sharp and A, okay? So we come up the power chord, then thirds, minor third, major third, minor third, okay? So this is all written in the lesson material, so remember, just click the link in the info below to go check all that out, along with the drum track. But, you know, it's not that tough a little a part there. You just have to get used to coming down in these thirds, which if you've never played thirds like this, yes, it might seem a little bit tricky, but you know, it's a good way of being able to descend down the neck. Okay, so just start really slow, and then just build up speed. Again, with the finger picking, I'm starting on the 2nd finger, and then raking back down to the B, which leaves me in a position to come down the thirds with 1, 2, 1, 2, which is a better way of picking them, okay? So, and that's the end of the first section. So, now let's just put those chunks together. So, very slowly from the top, so 3, 4, and okay, so that's all of it. So like I say, just start as slow as you need to, okay? So you could start even slower than that. 3 and 4 and And when you play it at that speed, you know, that slow tempo, you can really concentrate on your finger picking, and it will actually seem harder in some ways because you're not just relying on, you know, instinct and muscle memory. You're really focusing and analyzing what you're doing with the fingers. So when I start out, I'm thinking start on that 2nd finger and alternate. Then when I get to the top, I rake and then back. Same again. Then I think 2nd finger when I get to the next part. Then 2nd finger. And then concentrate on those thirds going down. Obviously, when you get to each point, if you really think, you know, hard to yourself, you know, really focus on 2nd finger for that very first note, then it'll seem a lot easier. Now, like I said, you don't have to start on that 2nd finger. I'm doing that because I find it just seems a lot easier that way. But if you do want to start on the 1st finger, then work out the fingering on this hand accordingly. And then, again, as you're working through it slowly, think 1st finger when you get down to the open E. So either way, these principles apply to any song, any line that you're ever going to learn. You know, it's the same thing. So whether you start on the 1st or the 2nd finger. For the 2nd section, we have exactly the same thing. But when we climb up this E power chord, E, B, and the E at the top, then we have this little wiggly line coming down. So we've got, so we come back up to the E, so we've got E, B, E, B, and then back up to the E, so then we have, okay, so we've got the D sharp to the E there, which you can play as a hammer on. So D sharp to E, so that's, what's that, 8th fret to 9th fret G string. Same again on the D string, 8th fret to the 9th fret, so that's going to be the B flat to the B, or A sharp to the B. And then finally we have G to F sharp, so 10th fret to 9th fret of the A string. And that's it. That leads us back to the beginning, okay? So that's the whole thing. So let's just try that section. So. And that's the whole thing. So remember, when you're coming up, open E, E, B, E, B, E. But we're raking at the top. And then, okay. So that's the whole thing. So let's put both of those sections together very slowly. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and okay. So, as I've said before, when you're coming down through this, at the end of there, with those minor thirds, you know, you're pretty low down. So when you come back up, you've got to make that jump. So as soon as you finish that part, get that hand back up here. So as soon as you've hit that A, you've got the open E there to give you that time to shift, but it is pretty quick. And then get that hand back up. Okay? So, as I said, start out really, really slow and then just gradually build up speed, focusing particularly on your finger picking, because that's the thing that's going to really screw you up with this. So, once you've got it up to speed, try it with the backing track. So that's Souls of Black. So remember to like this vid if it's helped, subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell symbol for notifications of weekly lessons. And then go check out Talkingbass.net where you can get access to the lesson material and the backing track. Okay, I'll see you next week.